What if I told you you don't have to work anymore? Today I will show you exactly how you can quit your job and still have money coming in 2 simple steps. So if you want to stop chasing paychecks, stop waking up every morning dreading your day, and finally experiencing true freedom, then make sure to stay until the end of the episode. I've been in your shoes. I spent years in office jobs that drained me, and eventually I was just like, no more. I cannot do this anymore. I will just become a housewife or something so I never have to work again. But then I had the realization that I will share with you today, which means that you don't have to become codependent on your partner. Eventually I was able to leave the corporate grind, and now I wake up excited every day because I no longer have a boss telling me what to do. What my experience and research has led me to realize is that the biggest obstacle standing between you and a work-free life is focusing on wealth instead of designing your ideal lifestyle first. Too many people believe that more money equals freedom, when in reality, unless you identify your unique strengths, challenges, ideal activities, and passions, you simply repeat a new kind of grind. Step 1 is to find your purpose, and I'll share exactly how to do that in just a moment. And step 2 is to monetize that purpose with passive income. Yes, you can actually earn passive income from your passion. And the reason why you want your passive income sources to be around your passion is because otherwise it will just feel like working once again. For example, when I was struggling to leave my office job, struggling to earn passive income, I thought, okay, I will become a trader. I will learn financial trading. So I bought a course and I went through the whole course, and then I was like, okay, I'm ready to trade. I'm ready to make some big money. And I hated it. I thought it was so boring that I just gave up on day 1. I realized I had just traded boring work for another boring work. So how do you find your purpose and how do you turn it into income? First, let's get into how to find your purpose. And for this, I use what I call the SKIP formula. First, we have S, which stands for strengths. Your innate gifts are the foundation of fulfilling work that doesn't feel like work. When you center your life around what you do effortlessly, you tap into flow. So in my case, I used to ignore my talent for listening, thinking that it was insignificant. So I started coaching and using YouTube as a way to drive traffic to my coaching. For example, now I have my flagship program, Nomad Freedom Academy, where I coach people on how to create a spiritual business. Studies on flow show that leveraging strengths leads to higher satisfaction and productivity. People in their flow state report feeling energized rather than drained. So my action step for you is to journal on what have people thanked me for throughout my life, and what do I do effortlessly that others struggle with. And next up we have the C, which stands for challenges. When you harness what you've overcome, you create authentic value that resonates deeply with others. So as I told you before, I was stuck in boring office jobs. Now I help people through that struggle. I help people who are stuck in their office jobs create a business around their passion. But for you, it might be something different. Perhaps you always struggled with a health issue, but then you were able to heal it through foods, and you can teach other people how to overcome that who has the same chronic condition. Research on post-traumatic growth shows that people who process and share their hardships often help others transform similar struggles. So the action I want you to take now is to journal on what challenges have shaped who you are today. What is something that you have gone through that you could help other people go through? Next part of the SKIP formula is I, which stands for ideal activities. And knowing how you'd spend your time if money was no object reveals the blueprint for a life of joy. Purpose lives where passion and time converge. I always wondered why millionaire singers would keep producing album after albums when they were already millionaires and they were set for life, right? They didn't have to work anymore. But then once I found my purpose and I started making YouTube videos for you guys, I completely understood. Because I would be doing this even if it made no money. The singers love the creative process. It's their purpose. So journal on and think about what would you do every day even if you didn't get paid? What activities make you lose track of time? And then we have P, which stands for passions. Your passions light a fire in your heart, and aligning your life with what moves you creates unstoppable momentum towards a work-free existence. Neuroscience research confirms that engaging with topics you love activates reward pathways in the brain, making effort feel effortless. So journal on what topics do you love learning or talking about, and what breaks your heart in the world that you feel called to help or heal. Now that you've explored your strengths, your challenges, ideal activities, and passions, really step back and look at the overlap. Where do those pieces intersect? And that sacred intersection is where your purpose and a life without traditional work lives. So now we're at step 2, where I teach you how you can monetize that purpose. You want to pick a business model that it creates passive income so that you don't have to work much. And by the way, even when you do work, it will not feel like work because it's so much fun. So for example, I only need to average around 4 hours of work per week in order to have the money coming into my life. But if I was trading my time for money, then I wouldn't be able to do that. For example, when we got a puppy, I was able to take months off to train our puppy, and other months I will work more. Some good business models is becoming an author, writing books, especially ebooks on Amazon, because then you don't need a publisher. Or you could become a content creator like me, or a social media influencer, having sponsorships. You could also create products on Etsy, or dropshipping, where you don't store the products or produce the products. You just create the store, and when somebody buys, it goes from a third party's place. For example, AliExpress. And I've created a whole 20-minute YouTube video on exactly the pros and cons of all these business models, so you can decide which one feels more aligned to you. Link in the description. You already have everything you need to build a lifestyle that feels like living, not working. So do this skip exercise, tune into the frequency of your ideal life, and watch work become a joyful expression of who you are. If you want some guidance and coaching on exactly how to do this, then I've also put a link in the description to a free clarity call booking. Love you and see you in the next episode.